short presentation, and then you'll be free to eat ice cream and tacos and meet people. And then a bit later, we'll wrap up with a few more short talks and Jeopardy. So, yeah, no problem.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not that good with visuals. I'm like all these like data people here. I'm a lawyer. I don't get it. I facilitate the Difficult Places Working Group, which is meant to be the shared purpose statement developed in the beginning of the meeting. Is a group of OpenGov advocates passionate about improving citizen-state relations in conflict-prone or closed places. And there's some other words that are not that helpful. And as the group has developed, we have kind of dropped the conflict-prone part. It was difficult for us to sort of coalesce in the beginning because people are working in really different geographic regions. Some people are dealing with fragility, and some people are dealing with a different kind of closing civil society space. So we decided to focus on closing civil society space more generally. And we have shared resources about that in the way that you just saw with the localizing OpenGov. But there's a lot out there. Everyone's talking about closing civil society space, right? It affects all of us. It's affecting our partners. And there's a lot of organizations out there like Civicus, which is now called Innovation for Change, like Communities of Democracy, Working Group on Civil Society. There's a lot of folks out there working on this, but there's not a lot of communication. And we sort of sussed out in our working group that part of the reason is that we're talking about different kinds of phenomena. When we're talking about closing civil society space. So one of the next steps we're going to take as a group is to try to map out what we mean when we're talking about closing civil society space. Like, I work in criminal justice, so for me, I'm talking about my partners getting arrested, or tortured, or disappeared, or extrajudicially killed. Other people are talking about, and also this happens to my partners, their NGO status being yanked or being subject to administrative or tax regimes that are targeted at them for their political activity. Maybe we're talking about yanking of state funding, all kinds of different phenomena. We need to map out what we're talking about and develop strategies for each kind of closure. So that's one of the next steps we're going to take. And we've kind of identified two main activities to take forward and to share sort of more concretely to help us do our work. Because a lot of us are finding that it's just harder and harder to do work, even in places where we were able to work easily just a few years ago, like the United States. And like Hungary and Poland, where I work a lot, for example. And so we've been talking about sharing risk assessments. When our partners, and our beneficiaries and the communities that we work with are at risk, we were talking about how we assess that risk and how we take a sort of adaptive learning, flexible approach to risk assessment, because often, you develop a project for a couple of years and the risks change quite quickly is what we're seeing. And so we're talking about how to develop flexible and responsive risk assessment tools and sharing best practices in relation to that, because a lot of us, we found, are just kind of making it up, and our funders don't seem to know any better than we do. So hope none of my funders are in the room. And the other sort of limb of activity is about communication strategy. So one of our members is Article 19, which is a freedom of expression organization, and so on there. And so I'm talking about people getting locked up and what we do to keep them safe, and activists getting locked up. And she's talking about smear campaigns and internet closures and what kind of other, I don't know, this is
just ways that NGOs are being targeted, especially I think smear campaigns, in addition to like regulatory restrictions, things like that.
And so we're talking about communication strategies to combat that. So how to make civil society how to support civil society organizations take up more space, more communicative space in a world with bot systems and smear campaigns, and what we can do to effectively combat that, because we're all like, with our little Facebook pages, it's not working. And so those are the two limbs that we've identified: risk assessments and communication strategies. I think that those two themes were developed because of the people who are in the group, and I know that a lot of other people here are working in societies that are closing or are quite closed already, and will have other ideas about what needs to be developed. So I encourage you to come to our meeting. We're small but mighty, and I'd love to have you join us.